How's it going, everyone? My name is Jalen, and welcome back to what I'm going to be calling a new segment, Under the Radar. And this is just going to be pretty much highlighting the 2026 seniors, basically, maybe some European guys in the future if it really tails or leads to it, but I'm just going to be highlighting what I think is going to be some people I think aren't really getting enough attention, and I believe definitely could be making at least a two-way contract, maybe the second round, and I think they definitely will have at least two contracts in the NBA when it's all played out. But without further ado, let's just hop right on into it with my first player in this new segment. And that's going to be Dylan Mitchell. Like I said, all these players are going to be seniors. This is a guy that's playing for St. John's this year. And coming out of high school, he was the number 4 player in his recruiting class in the 2022 recruiting class. It's a really high touted recruit. I mean, this guy can jump out of the gym, endless athleticism. He was ultimately named to that 2022 McDonald's All-American class, but coming into college, I think he had ultimately a little bit rougher over time. Chris Beard's whole scandal at Texas went down his freshman year, so he was fired and placed on leave. I don't think that's ultimately the best thing for any freshman coming in, especially one that then your coach didn't really play you the way that I think Chris Beard would have. But you can see the numbers here. Um, we'll lay it all out freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, senior year, just for future reference for all my other slides. Didn't really have the greatest freshman years. I think he only played around 18 minutes a game. He did start still every game pretty much while at Texas. Did come back, play his sophomore year. Respect to him, especially the transfer portal. Texas was throwing a lot of money at him with these new NIL rules, but he comes in junior year, or sophomore year, plays again, and then ultimately decides to transfer and hit Cincinnati in the transfer portal for his junior year. I think he ultimately saw a little bit more of a role there, but then transferring again to St. John's, which I think this has definitely put him right back on the map. I think Rick Pitino is definitely the coach that kind of maximized that athletic potential out of him. And I think he's become a really good on-ball defender. He's become a decent help defender. I think he's really underutilized or undervalued. I think you're playing with a team with Zuby Ejiofor, which is all Big East Player of the Year, all the Big East Defensive Player of the Year. But I mean that really just kind of shows the defensive mindset that the St. John's team has under Rick Pitino. He comes in here now and become part of this third team All Big East, as well as being named to the All Big East All Defensive Team in 2026. I mean, these are some of his biggest accolades now. It's coming his senior year. I think he's finally starting to live up to some of this potential I think that he had coming out of high school. Rick Pitino also named him a co-captain this year, kind of just showing that the leadership that he started to take coming into this year. I think he's definitely started to just overall turn a leaf and become the new version of Dylan, essentially. He's as you can see here, his numbers. He's put up 1,000 points, almost 900 rebounds, and 225 blocks and steals. But I think he's really, like I said, a really good defensive player. A lot of his points are going to come off of short roll dunks if he is playing it out of a screen roll. I think he probably will play a little bit more in the short corner, maybe a 4, maybe a little bit of 3 defensively, pairing the matchup. But his big question is just going to be if he can just shoot the ball. And the numbers show here he shot 18, almost 19% for his career, a little under 50% from the free throw line. But I think if you get the right NBA coaching, you get the right mechanics, and this is a guy that you maybe get at the end of the second round, maybe undrafted, and you put him on a 2-way contract. I think you can put him in the G League for a year. I don't know if he's actually going to want to do that a year or two, but if you really can refocus on shooting mechanics, I think this is a guy that has a lot of playmaking ability. As you can see here, he posted 3 assists this year. I think he has the IQ to be a really versatile offensive weapon. I think he's definitely be able to tackle a lot of closeouts. Like I spoke on the athleticism, one dribble, he's going to be able to be dunking on a lot of people at the next level. And I think if he can get that 3-point percentage to at least like 33% and just maybe be a little bit respectable, I think, especially out of the corners, I think any offense would just be. I think if he can just shoot the ball efficiently out of the corner, I don't think he's going to be a net negative on any team at the offense in the NBA level. Especially when he's going to come down, I think he's going to be your point of attack defender. I think he's going to be a really lengthy, like he's gonna be 6'8" coming in. I don't know exactly his wingspan measurables, but I think this guy is gonna be really problematic defensively, and I think it's gonna be really interesting to see what team gets him. I hope a playoff team gets him and really reworks his shooting mechanics. And I think this is a guy that's gonna easily probably have an 8 to 12 year career if the right guys get him. And I think this guy is gonna make a lot of money at the next level if he can just ultimately just become a respectable 3 point shooter and a respectable free throw shooter at the next level. Next year we'll have my next player, Malik Brown, and this is a guy that's kind of been a little bit more, the flip side, a little more undervalued or underappreciated, overlooked his kind of his high school career. I think a lot of his college year up until what's been this senior year. I think he's a very versatile defender, and a lot of these guys I think are on this list are going to be very defensive minded guys. I think that's definitely how you get your name into the NBA and stick on a roster, and then you let your offensive game develop from there. But like I said, on the defensive side, he's been the ACC. He won the ACC Defensive Player of the Year this year, while also winning the ACC Sixth Man of the Year. And this year there, he also had some ACC defensive accolades before that. He was on the Naismith Defensive Player Watch this year. I mean, he's just a really great defender. He's coming in at around 6'9". He might be maybe 6'8", a little bit shorter, but really great size, great frame. He's really he can move his feet really well, and I do think he might be your point of attack defender at times. I think he maybe usually on your second best offensive player, but he's gonna be problematic. I mean, you can see the steal numbers here. His senior year again, he's posting almost 2 steals here. He's been a just a steal magnet. He has really active hands, great mindset, a great IQ for even in both sides of the ball, and I'll touch on that in a second. But I think this is a guy that's definitely, I personally would say I'd probably have him a top 50 prospect, top 50, 45, maybe even top 40. Come finish seeing those picks after the trade and all that stuff. But I think this is a guy you could put at your 4, maybe your 5 in the next level, and it's gonna be really interesting to see what team gets him ultimately too. I think this guy also can rebound the ball a little bit, as you can see. Some of these rebound numbers I'll highlight too in a second of the sophomore year, but I think he's also gonna be able to play your 5 and also be able to switch out, be really defensive, or just put a lot of defensive versatility into your what's probably gonna be your bench lineup. And I think if a team like the Warriors get him, I think this is probably gonna be maybe 7th man, a really good defensive 4, probably play a little bit of your 5. He has a really great playmaking IQ too, as you can see the assist numbers here. Uh, I don't think that tells the full story. I think he definitely is a very low usage guy on the offensive end, but he makes a lot of the right reads when he does have the ball in his hands. So I think you get into an offense where there's a lot of quick motion, a lot of movement, a lot of off-ball screens, such as the Warriors. I think this is the guy that's going to be making a lot of money for them too. Now, finally, the shooting. I think that's ultimately the biggest thing. He hasn't really taken a lot of 3-point shots. He hasn't really shot the ball a whole lot while being in college. Like I said, he's a very low usage guy. But if you take a second here and look at his sophomore year numbers while he was at Syracuse, he shot almost 70% from the field and 37% from 3 while still playing 29 minutes per game. And this is a year where, here for his sophomore year, he averaged 9 points, 2 assists, almost 2 steals, a block, and 7 rebounds. I mean, this is a guy that really is going to fill the stat sheet. Really low usage. And if he does have that 3-point shot where he can be at least respected, you're probably not going to want to leave him. And if he can shoot maybe 35% in the next level, again, just going to be a corner shooter, maybe a little bit above the arc. I mean, this is a guy that teams are be drooling for. There's going to be really a big fight. I think he ultimately probably will get drafted, especially when Duke has this inevitable NCAA tournament run. But if he somehow doesn't get drafted, it's probably going to be because of his 3-point shot. I think if the team, once again, can rework his shooting mechanics here, you're going to have a really big steal here in Malik Brown. But we'll see what's going to happen here in the next few weeks with March Madness starting to play out. Okay, the next we'll have Donovan Dent. Speaking of March, this is another guy that really just seems to kind of come out of nowhere in this March Madness time. This is the guy that another guy was really overlooked in his high school class, that coming in at 173rd somehow on 24/7 Sports. I mean, he's produced while being in college, and I just don't understand how he was that overlooked. I mean, this is a guy that ultimately did start his career in New Mexico. Uh, kind of had to build his name a little bit more, but if you've paid attention to March Madness runs the past few years, JT Toppin's another guy that was on that team. I think that was 2023, 24 now. But they've just been really fun. This is a guy that can fill up with the stat sheet. As you can see here, his points, his junior year, is averaging 20 points, 7 assists a game. But the thing is with him is ultimately, can he shoot the ball at the next level? This year, his numbers have really dipped. His first senior year, he's shooting about 42%, I think, currently from the field. I think his three-point shot's at like 20%. He really has not shot the three-point shot well this year. I think he's just coming from the Mountain West Conference, and now you're playing in the Big Ten, or just I think a little bit of adjustment. I think it was a little bit of a slower start for him, but recently he's really started to turn it on, and history repeats itself, and I think March Madness UCLA might be able to have a run if he starts to have the Donovan Dent runs that I think we've seen for the past couple of years, especially with a better team overall at UCLA. But some of his personal accolades, like I said, he comes from Mountain West. He was the Mountain West Player of the Year last year. He scored first team Mountain West as well to go with that. He was All Mountain West second team the year before. Just couldn't squeeze that in here. He was All-American mentions last year, and this is the guy that potentially could have went to the draft last year. Then comes back this year. Maybe hurts his stock a little bit. I think now he might have a chance to kind of pick his team. I think if he does ultimately go undrafted, this is a guy that I think maybe if he ends up with the Lakers, this could be the next guy. It's like, how did you get him on a two-way? Or maybe I think like Miami Heat would be a really good team. I know they need a point guard. This is a guy that's a little bit taller of a point guard. He's not going to be your prototypical just playmaking point guard. I think he also can score too, and I don't think he's gonna be a liability on the defense end. So I mean that's Reeves Miami Heat point guard for me. But it's another guy that also, speaking of some of these accolades, he posted the first triple double in big tournament history the other day. I mean, there's been so many players that come out of that tournament year in year out. I mean, Russell Westbrook's another guy where the triple double king playing at UCLA, the same alumni. Not here, but he's obviously, I mean, an elite class of his own. I don't know if anybody's watched the comeback win they had against Illinois. I think it was probably about 3 weeks ago now. He has the amazing, it just feels like he just glides to the basket and ultimately crushed a lot of Illinois fans hard that night at a buzzer beater finish at the rim. And I really do like Donovan Dent here a lot. I think this is the guy that really does ultimately rise his stock a lot towards the end of the year. He's going to be a household name hopefully coming this next week. And who knows, come combine time, if he does come into these individual one-on-ones, knowing defense, shooting drills, maybe he does shoot the ball really well and squeak into the second round. But come drafting him, if he does end up being drafted, I think this is a guy that still is probably going to end up on two-way, worst case beat up somebody in training camp, and this is a guy we'll probably be hearing for at least another 5 to 7 years. All right, and this is a really interesting one, especially if you watched the Duke Virginia game yesterday. And you go on Yensu out of Virginia. This is a guy that came in, spent his first 2 years at Kentucky, and Calipari ultimately steps down and takes the job at Arkansas. And I'm surprised he didn't follow him. I don't know if Cal just didn't want him, if he didn't want to go play for Cal again. Takes a year, goes and plays at Kansas State. Complete mismanagement, I think, of his role, his talent. Hits the portal again, and now he finds himself at Virginia. But his numbers ultimately, I don't think, are reflective of how efficient this player can potentially be at the next level. I think if anybody watched the Duke game yesterday for Virginia, the second half, he ultimately felt like a prime Rudy Gobert, a prime Jaren Jackson, a prime just any defensive monster, prime wing that you need. Felt like he was blocking everything. I think he finished the game with 9 blocks, which is just another day in the office almost, it feels like, for him for this year. I mean, I think he's an elite rim protector. I think at the next level, I think if you get him in for 12 minutes, 14 minutes, this can really be a guy off the bench that's just gonna walk down the rim. You get in the right defensive matchup, you're not gonna be able to score. I think if you take away one complete part of the court, especially for what might be two stretches of the game, while you let your star players rest, I think this could be an amazing under the radar player here for, I don't know, maybe the Thunder. I think this would be a really good pickup here. I think the Celtics would be another really interesting team for him to go to here. And like I said, to touch on the blocks, I think this is the guy that's just going to be ultimately just an elite rim protecting problem. I spoke on it a little bit earlier. He wasn't really utilized, I don't think, the best in college, but you look at these block numbers. He didn't really play too much his freshman year. Came in, I think, midway through that year in the college, whatever. Sophomore year comes in and almost averages 3 blocks a game. Ridiculous, right? Junior year, like I said, wasn't really utilized. Senior year, 3 blocks again. And if you look at this, 98, he's only played 98 games. He's only started in 16 games. And he's had 2 seasons where he posted almost 3 blocks a game. And he's posted 200 career blocks in his career. I mean, it's ridiculous how different. He might be one of the best defenders, I think, in all of college basketball. I don't think anybody's really talked about it. I mean, speaking of some of his accolades here, he was all defensive team this year. Shocker for the ACC in 2026. He's, like I said, elite rim protecting prospect here. Rupp Arena, if you don't know what that is Kentucky. That is Kentucky's arena named after the great coach Rupp. 10 blocks in a game. I mean, it's a player. There's so many elite centers that come through there. I mean, one that probably I didn't fact check this. It probably is Anthony Davis. I just assumed. You're tying his record at 10 blocks a game. That's ridiculous. 10 blocks is. I mean, even if it isn't tying, that's ridiculous in tying anybody. But 10 blocks in a game, ridiculous. Then touching on, he's the ACC Bob Bradley Spirit and Courage Player of the Year. Just shows that. I think even off the court, he's a really good guy. That's a good guy that you're going to have in your locker room. And if he's not really making the most money in the world, I think this is still a guy you're going to have to fill out your roster. You're still going to have to have 14 guys a night. Still have 3 two-way contracts. I think this is a great guy to have in your locker room. He's not probably going to play about minutes. Clearly hasn't played a lot in college. What more could you really want from a guy that you know can still come in and produce in such a short, fast time? I could also touch on here. He's only played 14. Well, he's only averaged 15 minutes a game for his college career, which is ridiculous when you look at some of these numbers. Then finally, 39 games with 3 or more blocks. Like, what? Almost 50% of his games, I mean, a little bit under, obviously, but 40-something% of his games, he's getting 3 or more blocks. He's had, I think, 5 games with 8+ blocks, and he's had 8 games with 5+ blocks. Sorry, that was just coming off the top of my head. Ridiculous shot blocker. I mean, it's ridiculous how he's going this undervalued. I didn't even touch on his age. He's only 21 years old too. So he's a guy that played 4 years of college basketball. Still going to come in, be 22, come his first NBA game, couple of games, come the preseason and stuff. You have so much room to grow with him. And then finally, to leave it off with, I mean, you kind of see the 3-point numbers there. He didn't take a whole lot of them, but he's a guy that started to shoot the ball a little bit too. And if, like I said, he's a young prospect here. Maybe coming when he's 24, maybe he does have a 3-point shot. And if he has a 3-point shot while being able to come down and be an elite defensive prospect at the rim, I mean, this is a guy that maybe at best could be a top 5 in the Defensive Player of the Year candidate. And I think that's a little bit crazy. I mean, we've seen the emergence of players like Jay Huff this year, and he was leading the league in blocks for a point in time. I mean, this guy's, 8 years younger than Jay Huff, maybe, and he has probably, I'd say, the same skill set, if not better, at the same point in time. So we'll see what team drops in, what could be really interesting. And a little bit last thing, let's look at talk about that. He hasn't even taken 100 career free throws. Free throw kind of translate a little bit, shows you how much you can, or how much room you really have to grow at the next level as a shooter. I feel like he's only taken like 97, 98 free throws, and he's coming in at 67%. So I think there's definitely room past 2 years. So 72, and I think 76% from the free throw line. You can fact check me, probably wrong. But it's a guy that definitely has some room to grow with a 3-point shot, too. And like I said, if he can be an elite rim protecting prospect and at least respectable from the 3-point line, this is a guy that's going to make probably close to $100 million in his NBA career. I mean, that's a little bit crazy for me to say, but we'll fact check it in 10 years. And lastly, I have Bruce Thornton out of Ohio State. And this is a guy that I think I just personally have to throw him on here. He was number 52 in his high school class, a little more respect, I guess, coming in. But this is a guy that, especially in the world of the transfer portal and NIL and firing the coaches, it feels like over the slightest misconvenience. And this is a guy that stayed at his school for 4 years. I mean, huge shout out to Bruce Thornton here. He was first school captain for. He was captain for all 4 of those years. And that's the first time in school history he's done that. Or he's also a little sneak peek into that. He's also the school leading player. He's the leader in points in all time for Ohio State now. And there's been so many great players that come out of Ohio State in the years. I mean, Joe Lucas, I think, had that before him, the record before he ultimately breaks in, like just 4 years too. And where some of these guys have been playing like 6 or 7, 8 years. It feels like sometimes. So huge, just under the radar guy here. I feel like his scoring production's been there. I mean, you can see the jump here. He went from 10 to 20 points. He's doubled his production in 4 years. Assist numbers, Ohio State's always really played with 2 point guards, 2 lead ball handlers, in my opinion. But he takes care of the ball. He does what he needs to do when he does have the ball. Solid rebounder for his size, too. He's only going to come in at 6'2". But as you see, he's a really filled out, stocky guy. I don't think he's going to have any problems on the defensive end. I mean, the steal numbers have been inconsistent. He's just only going to put post number 1. I mean, only 1. I mean, he's going to be a respectable defender there. And he tied in there. He's shot 40% the past 2 years. I mean, this year he's shooting 56% from the field. So he's a hyper efficient guy. He's going to score a lot of points. I think this is a great guy for any team's bench. I think any team really needs. I think especially now, I think any team really needs a point guard that's capable of taking care of the ball for one, but also being able to be a scoring threat for themselves. I think a lot of these teams, especially recently, have started to phase out the smaller point guards, the smaller guards in general, for the simple fact that, one, they're a defensive liability on the other end, and two, they're not really capable of getting their own bucket when they need to on the offensive end. So you're playing 4 on 5 on both ends of the floor, it feels like. I feel like recently you've seen Tyus Jones kind of fall off the radar just due to size. I think he's just kind of his athleticism started to go as he's starting to get a little bit older. But I think this is a guy that definitely can have, I feel like, at least a 5-year stretch here where he has the size to be a defensive, or like size to be an offensive problem, size to be a defensive problem. Like you can see here, he's posted a 3-to-1 career assist to turnover ratio. Takes care of the ball. He's posted 500 assists to under 200 turnovers. He's a guy that if you don't need him to run the offense for a little bit, 5 to 10 minutes here while these other star players are resting, you're capable of doing it. You can also run him off the ball. He's shooting 40% pretty much for his career. I think this guy that you can put him in spot-up role and you can have him off ball if you really do need him. He's not going to be a problem, a liability on the defensive end. And at the end of the day, this is a guy that any team really can use, I think. And especially if you stash him for 2 to 3 years in the G League, maybe into your bench while he's just playing some minutes against, essentially in practice, against some higher level talent. I think teams like the Nuggets could really use a guy here like this. I think Dallas Mavericks would really be interested in him. I think the Atlanta Hawks would be really interested in a guy like Bruce Thornton. He's from Georgia. I think this is a guy that definitely might be able to squeak into the end of the second round, like I said. Maybe doesn't, he goes undrafted. I think this definitely won't be the end of Bruce Thornton's career. I think there definitely is some team in the NBA that will find a spot for him. But all right, if you made it with me here to the end, appreciate you. Thanks for watching. This segment does stick in the future. Hopefully it does get a little bit of traction. I really will be posting on these guys regardless. I think I'll probably do hopefully 80 to 120 prospects come before the end of this draft cycle. So once again, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.